Welcome to Saints Sodality, a new podcast where we dive deep into the life of saints.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating and honestly quite mysterious. The nature of miracles. We're not just talking about, strange occurrences. We're looking at a specific framework for classifying them, and we'll apply it to Padre Pio, especially his interaction with a very committed atheist.
That's right. That's the plan. This source material is quite unique because it tries to systematize the supernatural. It gives us rules, definitions.
A rule book for the divine.
In a way, yes. So our mission is to explore those rules, understand why intermediaries like saints might be involved, and then see it all in action with this really powerful conversion story.
Okay, so starting point. The theology. The sources say miracles are free gifts from God, supernatural, showing his power, Christ's divinity, the church's holiness.
But they lay down strict rules from the get-go. 3 things. It must be supernatural, perceivable by the senses, and I like this phrase, it must stupefy us with wonder.
Stupefy. That's a strong word.
It really is. It tells you the bar's incredibly high, no ambiguity allowed. It has to be so astonishing that you're forced to consider divine intervention, No wiggle room for a natural explanation.
Right. So let's hone in on that supernatural test, specifically this idea of instantaneity. That seems crucial for getting recognized.
It absolutely is. The source is very clear here. If it's a physical miracle, bringing someone back to life, restoring a limb that's missing, instantly curing a major illness, it has to happen right then and there, on the spot.
No gradual improvement.
None. Instantaneity is like God's signature, bypassing natural law entirely. But it doesn't stop there. The sources talk about a hierarchy, different degrees of miracles.
Okay. And this hierarchy isn't based on how, flashy it looks.
No, not at all. It's about the miracle's relationship to science and nature. How much does it defy what we know or what could be known?
All right, walk us through that. What are these degrees?
So, first degree. This is the absolute peak. An event that science or natural law could never achieve. Not now, not in the future. The classic example is restoring a whole limb that wasn't there. That breaks biology and physics as we understand them. Permanently.
Fundamentally impossible by natural means.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the second degree then? You said science might be involved somehow?
Yeah, the key difference here is time. With a second-degree miracle, the outcome might be something science could achieve eventually. Think healing a disease, maybe through complex surgery or long therapy. But the miracle makes it happen instantaneously.
Ah, so it's the speed.
Exactly. It collapses the natural timeline. A disease vanishing in a second versus healing over months or years. That suddenness is the supernatural part.
That makes sense. The speed defies the process. Okay, but then there's a shift, right, to intellectual miracles. What falls under that?
This moves away from the physical body and into the realm of the mind, the spirit. Things like genuine sudden prophecy, knowing the future accurately,
Okay.
or instantly speaking or understanding languages you've never ever studied.
Now, wait a second. The source includes things like reading thoughts or knowing forgotten facts. Isn't that, a bit fuzzy? Could it be just sharp intuition or even deception?
That's a fair point, and the source anticipates it. The emphasis is always on the unstudied or unknown nature of the knowledge. It's not just making a good guess. It's precise, immediate knowledge of hidden things, doctrine, future events, someone's deeply buried, forgotten sins.
Which is where Padre Pio comes in so strongly.
Exactly. His reported abilities fit this category perfectly. The sources say he spoke Italian, but people who only spoke other languages understood him clearly. That's the gift of tongues aspect.
An intellectual miracle in action.
Right. And his documented ability to, read people's minds during confession, telling them about sins they themselves had forgotten, sometimes things from decades earlier. That's presented as divine clairvoyance, not just psychological insight.
So the mind itself is a stage for these supernatural acts.
Just as much as the body, yes. It broadens the definition considerably.
Okay, so we have this structure, these degrees, but it leads to a really fundamental question. One, the source is actually posed directly. Why bother with intermediaries? Saints, chosen people. If God is all-powerful, why not just go straight to the top?
It's a great question. Kind of like, why is there bureaucracy in the divine? And the sources use analogies to explain it.
Yeah, I found those interesting. There's the military one. You follow the chain of command. You talk to the vice director. You don't just barge into the CEO's office.
Right. It suggests a respect for an established order, a divine protocol maybe.
And the other one was more personal, the family analogy. A child might ask their mother for something, knowing she might have more influence or a better approach with the father.
The saints, these chosen servants, are called heralds of the Lord. They're presented as designated pathways, intermediaries.
So they're not roadblocks, they're guides on a specific path. But does using this chain of command make it feel less personal, less direct?
Well, the sources argue the intimacy isn't lost because the miracle's purpose isn't solely for the person receiving it. Yes, healing is great for the individual, but the text says miracles are indispensable to others.
What I call
Meaning their main function is often to build faith in the community, to draw everyone closer to God. It even cites Christ raising Lazarus, saying, "He did it for the sake of the multitude, that they may learn to believe." It's a teaching tool, essentially, for the masses.
Belief needs evidence, or at least signs. Which brings us back to Padre Pio and the specific claims. We have the definitions, now let's see the application.
Okay, yeah. We have several examples that touch on these different degrees. The story about him keeping someone totally dry during a torrential downpour, that's presented as instantaneous, first-degree control over physical elements. Physics just suspended.
Wild. And then there are the more subtle things, like warning someone about their spiritual life slipping by using his signature scent, that smell of violets, or just a feeling of his presence.
Right. Those are more internal, maybe touching on the intellectual or spiritual realm. And then there's direct physical intervention, like the account of him assisting a surgeon during eye surgery.
The cataract operation.
Yes, guiding the surgeon's hand, supposedly, to restore sight to a woman blind for nearly 3 decades. That's healing accelerated beyond natural means, a powerful second-degree miracle.
But maybe the clearest second-degree example showing that instant control over nature is the caterpillar incident.
Oh, that one's great because it's so mundane, yet completely inexplicable in its speed. An almond farmer is worried about caterpillars destroying his trees.
A common problem.
Very common. He asks Padre Pio for help. Pio, from the church terrace, simply blesses the trees. And the source claims that within minutes, the infested tree was totally clear.
But the caterpillars didn't just vanish. That's the key part, right?
Exactly. They weren't annihilated. They were instantly relocated. The ground beneath the tree was suddenly covered in them. So it solves a natural problem pest infestation, but in a completely unnatural time frame. That instantaneous shift is what makes it fit that second-degree definition so well.
That kind of immediate power over the physical world, it really sets the stage for looking at the spiritual transformations, which the sources imply are the real point. Let's talk about Dr. Ezio Saltamarenda, the atheist.
Yes, Saltamarenda. He's almost the perfect subject to test these ideas about spiritual recovery. The source describes him as having this indomitable pride, total self-reliance, believed only in himself.
And his background just reinforced it. Lost his faith as a child, declared atheism as a teenager. Apparently, he even read religious texts just to find arguments against faith.
Right, and then going through war, prison time, even concentration camps. You'd think that might break someone's certainty, but the source says it just made his pride stronger, more indomitable than ever. He truly believed man was the sole creator of his own fate.
So, how does someone like that even begin to crack? The source says it started physically, didn't it?
It did, very strangely. He saw a photograph of Padre Pio and felt this sudden, weird tightness in his throat. The same feeling he'd had, inexplicably, watching a religious procession days before. It bypassed his intellect completely.
A physical reaction he couldn't explain away, and that led to this overwhelming urge to go see Pio.
An irresistible urge, yes. And then, the path just seemed to clear miraculously. Business in Rome that should have taken a week, done in a day. Arriving at a deserted train station at dawn in the middle of nowhere, snow everywhere, and there's a taxi waiting just for him. Obstacles just vanished.
The universe conspiring to get him there.
Seems like it. But when he arrived, the real struggle began. He felt this urge to cry during Mass, but his pride, his will was like iron. It kept him frozen in a corner, literally fighting himself.
And then the famous confrontation during confession, he tried to leave.
He did. But Pio basically pinned him with his gaze and asked point blank, telling Nicano, "Don't you ever think of your own miserable soul?"
Direct.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Saltamarenda, falling back on his old pride, tried to justify his life by talking about propagation of the species, justifying his existence biologically.
And Pio wasn't having it.
Not at all. He snapped back, "Wretch, don't you see that your soul is being destroyed?" Real intensity there.
And it didn't stop. Pio then humiliated him publicly, calling him the Genoese with the dirty face, That seems incredibly harsh. Why would that attract someone?
Well, according to the source's interpretation, the goal wasn't gentle persuasion. It was to shatter that indomitable pride. The public humiliation, which should have made an arrogant man storm off, somehow did the opposite. It seems Saul Camarenda felt, this man sees the absolute truth of my state, how spiritually impoverished I am. It forced a surrender.
So the harshness was actually proof of Pio's insight.
That seems to be the logic presented. And the result was a complete breakdown. Saul Camarenda weeping on Pio's hands, while Pio, using what the source calls miraculous clairvoyance, listed out his forgotten sins, even distant ones, and then dictated the act of contrition to him.
The ultimate intellectual miracle revealing hidden truths of the soul. And then came the final confirmation that night.
Yes. Saul Camarenda was alone in his room, terrified by loud knocking sounds on the walls, seemingly inexplicable.
And in his fear,
He called out Padre Pio's name, and instantly the room filled with that characteristic scent of violets associated with Pio, a palpable olfactory sign that Pio was present, offering comfort. That sensory confirmation sealed his newfound faith.
it's an incredible story. It really highlights that idea of the miracle being indispensable to others, using one soul's transformation as a potential beacon. But let's touch on one last thing, this idea of worthiness. Who actually gets these miracles?
That's crucial. The source is very clear. God isn't obligated to perform miracles on demand. Our ideas of who deserves one are, well, irrelevant. God's justice is absolute. Ours is relative and flawed.
So someone we might think is unworthy could receive a miracle.
Absolutely. The text explicitly says, miracles can be granted to people we might judge harshly, often because someone else is praying intensely for them, a mother, a wife, their children. It's not always about the recipient's personal merit score, so to speak.
It's part of a bigger picture we just can't see.
Exactly, which reinforces the main takeaway. Healing, physical or otherwise, isn't just about fixing the body or the immediate problem. It's meant to point the soul toward spiritual recovery.
Like the example given of the man cured of tongue cancer.
Who was simultaneously cured of his habit of blasphemy. The physical cure served the deeper spiritual healing. That's the ultimate goal presented.
So, in the end, a miracle kind of defies easy definition. It's an act of a free and sovereign will operating outside our rules.
It just happens. And its purpose, according to these sources, is always larger than just the person it happens to.
Which brings us back to Dr. Saltamiranda one last time. After his conversion, Padre Pio told him something profound. You have now in your hands a marvelous bread, and around you are many starving souls. Cut it in slices and distribute it.
Call to action.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a question for you, the listener, to think about. If spiritual recovery is the real point of a miracle, what responsibility comes with receiving such a grace? Is getting the miracle just the beginning? Something to ponder? Join us next time on The Deep Dive.